Alright guys, we're gonna go kind of clean with our sound today. We're in the park right now. This is Mount Tabor. Just to give you a little idea of your surroundings. And even down here there's some water. I don't know if you can see that, but kind of a special little area. Yeah, the shade is a lot better for the visual, for the video, so we were trying to do one video, but I think this is going to be the video today, or at least one of them. We just finished 2 Samuel, so now we're going to start with 1 Kings. All right. Chapter 1, verse 1. King David was now very old, and no matter how many blankets covered him, he could not keep warm. So his advisors told him, "Let us find a young virgin to wait on you and look after you, my lord. She will lie in your arms and keep you warm." So they searched throughout the land of Israel for a beautiful girl, and they found Abishag from Shunem and brought her to the king. The girl was very beautiful, and she looked after the king and took care of him, but the king had no sexual relations with her. Yeah, I feel almost tired to talk about this, but I mean, it's notable. It's interesting that that was definitely a weak point for David, and now at the end of his life, even if it's because of old age, he does not give in to his normal pattern here. Verse 5. About that time, David's son Adonijah, whose mother was Haggith, began boasting, "I will make myself king." So he provided himself with chariots and charioteers and recruited 50 men to run in front of him. Now his father, King David, had never disciplined him at any time, even by asking, "Why are you doing that?" Adonijah had been born next after Absalom, and he was very handsome. Adonijah took Joab, son of Zeruiah, and Abiathar the priest into his confidence, and they agreed to help him become king. But Zadok, the priest, and it kind of just shows it's almost like the Wild West with Israel sometimes. Certainly Judges felt that way, and even now it just feels so disorderly, like there's not a clear line of command or a chain of command, it seems. I don't know if Joab was just trying to go behind David's back, because there's definitely probably some rivalry that he's aware of, some discomfort that David has with Joab. So maybe Joab's trying to go behind David's back. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. It seems like Joab would know better than to just get behind this Adonijah. Seems like he would know that he needs to defer to whatever David wills, right? But here Joab is endorsing Adonijah. But Zadok the priest, Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, Nathan the prophet, Shimei, Re, and David's personal bodyguard refused to support Adonijah. Adonijah went to the stone of Zoleth near the spring of Enrogel, where he sacrificed sheep, cattle, and fattened calves. He invited all his brothers, the other sons of King David, and all the royal officials of Judah. But he did not invite Nathan the prophet, or Benaiah, or the king's bodyguard, or his brother Solomon. So he wouldn't suggest I wouldn't suggest trying to exclude Nathan the prophet. That seems like a bad idea. Then Nathan went to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, and asked her, "Haven't you heard that Haggith's son Adonijah has made himself king, and our Lord David doesn't even know about it? If you want to save your own life and the life of your son Solomon, follow my advice. Go at once to King David and say to him, 'My lord the king, didn't you make a vow? And say to me, your son Solomon will surely be the next king and will sit on the throne. Why then has Adonijah become king? And while you are still talking with him, I will come and confirm everything you have said.'" All right, so Bathsheba went into the king's bedroom, and it's kind of for us to speculate whether David made that vow to Bathsheba or whether Nathan and Bathsheba are sort of making this up here. It does sort of smack of Rebecca and Jacob back in the day when they tricked Isaac with a disguise. But maybe I'm just read too much of Genesis. Anyway, Bathsheba bowed down before the king. So Bathsheba went into the king's bedroom. He was very old, and Abishag was taking care of him, and Bathsheba bowed down before the king. "What can I do for you?" he asked her. She replied, "My lord, you made a vow before the Lord your God when you said to me, 'Your son Solomon will surely be the next king and will sit on my throne.' But instead, Adonijah has made himself king, and my lord the king does not even know about it. He has sacrificed many cattle, fattened calves and sheep, and he has invited all the king's sons to attend the celebration. He also invited Abiathar the priest and Joab, the commander of the army, but he did not invite your servant Solomon. And now, my lord the king, all Israel is waiting for you to announce who will become king after you. If you do not act, my son Solomon and I will be treated as criminals as soon as my lord the king has died." While she was still speaking with the king, Nathan the prophet arrived. And can you imagine the authority at this point in time, how much authority Nathan holds in David's life? He's the one who totally read David's mail in the middle of all of that scandal with Bathsheba, So Nathan's got to be something like the face and the voice of God himself to David. The king's officials told him, "Nathan the prophet is here to see you." Nathan went in and bowed before the king with his face to the ground. Nathan asked, "My lord the king, you have decided that Adonijah have you decided that Adonijah will be the next king and that he will sit on the throne? Today he has sacrificed many cattle, fattened calves, and sheep, and he has invited all the king's sons to attend the celebration. He also invited the commanders of the army and Abiathar the priest. They're feasting and drinking with him and shouting, 'Long live King Adonijah!' But he did not invite me or Zadok," and Zadok is like another seer or prophet, "the priest or Benaiah or your servant Solomon." Interesting that he said servant and not son. I think it's just a way of probably showing his obedient submission to David. Has my lord the king really done this without letting any of his officials know who should be the next king? Now David makes Solomon king. In case you didn't expect, here it comes. King David responded, "Call Bathsheba." So she came back in and stood before the king. So she must have left as soon as Nathan barged in. And I'm sure that's probably some sort of royal procedure that's just customary. as the prophet comes in. Probably everybody clears out. And the king repeated his vow, as surely as the Lord lives, who has rescued me from every danger, your son Solomon will be the next king. He's saying this to David. And will sit on my throne this very day, just as I vowed to you before the Lord, the God of Israel. Then Bathsheba bowed down with her face to the ground before the king and exclaimed, "May my lord king, the king, David, live forever." Then David ordered, "Call Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah, son of Jehoiada." When they came into the king's presence, the king said to them, "Take Solomon and my officials down to Gihon Spring. Solomon is to ride on my own mule." So there must have been like royal mules. Something that I don't think I ever knew about. But if you can remember, Absalom was riding a mule in the throes of a civil war, which just still doesn't make any sense to me. I wonder if he was trying to like sort of stimulate the people's minds with like a royal procession back then. It just kind of shows that he was a politician and not a warrior, because he didn't understand that it was time to ride a horse during a war, you know. He could charm Israel, but he wasn't really good at the war aspect of being a king, or a king, a wannabe king at the very least. But here we are, David furnishing his royal mule for Solomon. Must be a great, really nice mule. There Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet are to anoint him king over Israel. Blow the ram's horn and shout, "Long live King Solomon." Then escort him back here, and he will sit on my throne. He will succeed me as king, for I have appointed him to be ruler over Israel and Judah. Amen. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, replied, "May the Lord, the God of my lord the king, declare or decree that it happen. And may the Lord be with Solomon as he has been with you, my lord the king, and may he make Solomon's reign even greater than yours." So Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, and the king's bodyguard took Solomon down to Gihon Spring, with Solomon riding on King David's own mule. There Zadok the priest took the flask of olive oil from the sacred tent and anointed Solomon with the oil. Then they sounded the ram's horn, and all the people shouted, "Long live King Solomon!" And all the people followed Solomon into Jerusalem, playing flutes and shouting for joy. The celebration was so joyous and noisy that the earth shook with the sound. Man, you just see how powerful David's word was, right? Because once David's word was behind Solomon, the people joined with just a resounding uniformity, you might say. So the earth is shaking because their cheers are so loud. It's like some grand parade. Adonijah and his guests heard the celebration and shouting just as they were finishing their banquet. When Joab heard the sound of the ram's horn, he asked, "What's going on? Why is the city in such an uproar?" And while he was still speaking, Jonathan, son of Abiathar, the priest, arrived. "Come in." Adonijah said to him, "For you are a good man, you must have good news." It's a way of like brown-nosing the messenger. I don't know. "Not at all," Jonathan replied. "Our lord the king has just declared Solomon king." The king sent him down to Gihon Spring with Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, people that you uninvited, and Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, protected by the king's bodyguard. They have him ride on the king's very own. They had him ride on the king's very own mule, and Zadok and Nathan have anointed him at Gihon Spring as the new king. They have just returned and the whole city is celebrating and rejoicing. That's what all of the noise is about. What's more, Solomon is now sitting on the royal throne as king, and all the royal officials have gone to King David and congratulated him, saying, "May your God make Solomon's fame even greater than your own, and may Solomon's reign be even greater than yours." Then the king bowed his head in worship as he lay in his bed, and he said, "Praise the Lord, the God of Israel, who today has chosen a successor to sit on my throne while I am still alive to see it." Then all of Adonijah's guests jumped up in a panic from the banquet table and quickly scattered like roaches under a flashlight. Dang, brother. Party over too soon. Adonijah was afraid of Solomon, so he rushed to the sacred tent and grabbed on the horns of the altar. Word soon reached Solomon that Adonijah had seized the horns of the altar in fear, and he was pleading, "Let King Solomon swear today that he will not kill me." And Solomon replied, "If he proves himself to be loyal, not a hair on his head will be touched. But if he makes trouble, he will die." So King Solomon summoned Adonijah, and they brought him down from the altar. He came and bowed respectfully before King Solomon, who dismissed him, saying, "Go on home." Okay, so now we're doing chapter 2, David's final instructions to Solomon. As the time of the king's death approached, he gave this charge to his son Solomon. And I think we're going to see the bad blood between Joab and King David soon. "I'm going where everyone on the earth must someday go." About to die, in other words. "Take courage and be a man. Observe the requirements of the Lord your God and follow all his ways. Keep the decrees, commands, regulations, and laws written in the law of Moses, so that you will be successful in all you do and wherever you go." And it kind of reminds me of two things at this point. So King David, the most famous king ever in the history of Israel. Solomon's probably a kind of a close second, but some people might say that it's not really that close. It reminds, either way, King David, they call Jerusalem the city of David, right? King David is about to die. This is one of the most famous figures in Israeli history. And I've heard it said, first of all, I think of this movie, The King's Speech, which is the story of King George, I want to say, King George V. During World War II, his dad dies. I don't know if I have that quite right, but the movie is King's Speech, and his dad dies, and he's forced to become king just because of some crazy circumstances. But his older brother, who was supposed to succeed his father, he breaks down and cries when his father dies. They're in the room, and the old king has just died in the bed, and his older brother breaks down and cries, and it's just not dignified. There's something about royalty, especially, where even though it's tragic that your dad has died, kind of true to David's encouragement here to Solomon, he says, take courage and be a man. I think most parents who want the best for their kids, of course they want their kids to grieve and mourn the loss of their relationship with their parent. But there's probably no greater gift that I can imagine, and I'm not even a parent right now, but there's no greater gift I can think of than if I were about to die, than to know that my kids were going to be okay and they were going to take courage and step into their roles in society in the broad sense, just in their own life, to step into the call that God has given them, to the roles that are clearly in their life, whether it's pertaining to their job or even just their relationship with God, right? Their faith. So that's kind of what we're seeing here is David hoping that Solomon will be strong and take courage and be a man. And it kind of it's also almost like an encouragement that sounds really bad to us these days. I think at least in Portland, we're a very feelings-based city, and I think most naturally, we kind of percolate and probably circulate in our emotions to a fault, and it can even work against us when we think it's going to help us, because it kind of stops us from seeing the greater calling that we could answer if we had the courage and we were strong and we were seeing our lives clearly, and the potential that we have if we would just in some ways take responsibility for our own lives. So yeah, especially if you consider yourself like a king or somebody with great potential, it sort of behooves us to be strong even in the midst of grief and loss. So yeah, it even makes me think of countless movies where people endure a loss at the beginning of the movie, whether it's a death or some sort of a tragedy, or like some crazy challenge or adversity or problem is put up against the main character in the movie right away at the front end of the movie. And then it's the story of that main character rising to that challenge and overcoming it. It's the hero's journey, for lack of a better description. But there's a reason why that's such a popular plot line. It's because I think most of us, if not all of us, have that deep-seated desire to be able to rise to the challenge of our lives and the times that we're born into or the circumstances that we find ourselves in. So now Solomon's in his own set of circumstances, and David's like, be strong, take courage, be a man. Yeah. And let me see, was there another thing? I think that kind of covers it. All right, so observe the requirements of the Lord your God and follow all of his ways. Keep the decrees and commands and regulations, laws written in the law of Moses, so that you will be successful in all you do and wherever you go. If you do this, then the Lord will keep the promise he made to me. He told me, if your descendants live as they should and follow me faithfully with all their heart and soul, one of them will always sit on the throne of Israel. And there is something else. You know what Joab, son of Zeruiah, did to me when he murdered my 2 army commanders, Abner, son of Ner, and Amasa, son of Jether. Yeah. You know, I was always sort of bitter in the past about David mentioning this right before he dies, but now, after just reading 1st and 2nd Samuel slower, I think I see where David is coming from, even if it doesn't seem like a good look to a man who is about to die, to a great king who is about to die. I can understand why David would be unforgiving to Joab about both Abner, who is really on David's side in the last few days or weeks before he died. He was very pro-David. He was very much on David's side, and Joab killed him anyway. And then Amasa, of course, I think is even a blood relative of David's in some way, shape, or form. And Joab just killed them both. In some ways, what seems to be out of pure jealousy, spite, or rivalry. Certainly not for David's sake. It was very selfish moves by Joab. And so David has just told Solomon to be a man, listen to all that God has told you, follow his commands, obey him, and he'll fulfill the promise that he promised your father, and he'll live that promise to me into you, my son. So far, that's what he said, and now he's giving him further instruction about what he would like Solomon to do with Joab. You know what Joab, son of Zeruiah, did to me when he murdered my 2 army commanders, Abner, son of Ner, and Amasa, son of Jether. He pretended that it was an act of war, but it was done in a time of peace, staining his belt and sandals with innocent blood. Do with him what you think best, but don't let him grow old and go to his grave in peace. Be kind to the sons of Barzillai of Gilead. Make them permanent guests at your table, for they took care of me when I fled from your brother Absalom. And remember Shimei, son of Gera, the man from Bahurim in Benjamin. He cursed me with a terrible curse as I was fleeing Mahanaim. When he came down to meet me at the Jordan River, I swore by the Lord that I would not kill him, but that oath does not make him innocent. You are a wise man, and you will know how to arrange a bloody death for him. Whew. And it is interesting that David said, you are a wise man. That word wise man, must have rung in Solomon's ears. I've never noticed that before. But is it any wonder that in a chapter or two, Solomon, when he's encountered with the angel of the Lord, he's going to ask for wisdom. The angel is going to say, I'll give you anything you want. And the first thing that Solomon's going to ask for is wisdom. He must have been, I can't imagine that he wasn't thinking, my dad called me a wise man. I don't feel like a wise man, but I feel like I need to rise to that challenge. Here's this angel saying I can have it whatever I want. Maybe this is the way I could do it. Lord, give me wisdom. Very interesting. It's all pertaining to death and vengeance in this case. Then David died and was buried with his ancestors in the city of David, which I think is actually Bethlehem, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know why I said Jerusalem, but we can look into that later. David had reigned over Israel for 40 years, 7 of them in Hebron and 33 in Jerusalem. Solomon became king and sat on the throne of David his father, and his kingdom was firmly established. Solomon established his rule. One day, Adonijah, whose mother was Haggith, came to see Bathsheba, Solomon's mother. Have you come with peaceful intentions? She asked him. Yes, he said, I come in peace. In fact, I have a favor to ask of you. What is it? She asked. He replied, as you know, the kingdom was rightfully mine, all of Israel. He's saying this to Bathsheba, and that's ridiculous. Jeez. He's got a lot of sand, to say it that way, in front of her. All Israel wanted me to be the next king, but the tables were turned and the kingdom went to my brother instead. Yeah. Her son, buddy. Who do you think you are? For that is the way the Lord wanted it. Well, at least you put it that way. For that is the way the Lord wanted it. So now I just have one favor to ask of you. Please don't turn me down. What is it? She asked. He replied, speak to King Solomon on my behalf, for I know he will do anything you request. Ask him to let me marry Abishag, the girl from Shunem. All right, Bathsheba replied, I will speak to the king for you. So Bathsheba went to King Solomon to speak on Adonijah's behalf. The king rose from his throne to meet her, and he bowed down before her when he sat down on the throne. And in the same way that Nathan must have been the voice of God to David, Bathsheba must have been pretty close to that for Solomon, if you think about how much she advocated for him. So she enters Solomon's courts. He rises, almost like she's a prophet here. Maybe I'm overstating that, but take it for what you will. When he sat, the king rose from his throne to meet her, and he bowed down before her. And when he sat down on his throne again, the king ordered that a throne be brought for his mother, and she sat at his right hand. I have one small request to make of you, she said. I hope you won't turn me down. What is it, mother? You know I won't refuse you. Then let your brother Adonijah marry Abishag, the girl from Shunem, she replied. How can you possibly ask me to give Abishag to Adonijah? King Solomon demanded, you might as well ask me to give him the kingdom. You know that he is my older brother, and that he has Abiathar the priest and Joab son of Zeruiah on his side. Then King Solomon made a vow before the Lord, may God strike me and even kill me if Adonijah has sealed his fate with this request. May God strike me and even kill me if Adonijah has not sealed his fate with this request. The Lord has confirmed me and placed me on the throne of my father, David. He has established my dynasty as he promised. This reminds me of that scene where Daniel Day-Lewis plays the part of Abraham Lincoln. And in that movie, he rises up and says, I am the President of the United States of America, clothed in great power. That's exactly what Solomon's doing here. He feels a threat when Adonijah has asked for this request, and he's standing up and saying, I am king, I'm the rightful king, clothed in immense power, and I'm not going to be trifled with. And obviously it is serious business here. So as surely as the Lord lives, Adonijah will die this very day. So King Solomon ordered Benaiah son of Jehoiada to execute him, and Adonijah was put to death. Then the king said to Abiathar the priest, go back to your home in Anathoth. You deserve to die, but I will not kill you now. All right, so the king said to Abiathar, so he's not just gunning for Adonijah now, he's gunning for Adonijah's whole entourage. I will not kill you now because you carried the ark of the sovereign Lord for for David my father, and you shared all his hardships. So Solomon deposed Abiathar from his position as priest of the Lord, thereby fulfilling the prophecy that the Lord had given at Shiloh concerning the descendants of Eli. Joab has not joined Absalom's earlier rebellion, but he had joined Adonijah's rebellion. So when Joab heard about Adonijah's death, he ran to the sacred tent of the Lord and grabbed onto the horns of the altar. When this was reported to King Solomon, he sent Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, to execute him. Benaiah went to the sacred tent of the Lord and said to Joab, "The king orders you to come out." But Joab answered, "No, I will die here." So Benaiah returned to the king and told him what Joab had said. Oh, it's Joab's time. So it's interesting that the first thing that he does is goes after his entourage. I don't know why this is how he's doing it, but it does feel kind of Shakespearean, doesn't it? Just the tension is building. It's almost like one of those action movies, whether it's Disney or something that is more for adults, where there's like kind of a whole group of bad guys, and the movie, in order for it to climax appropriately at the end, like the big bad guy is reserved for the end of the story, and the protagonist is kind of weaving through all that adversity, kind of picking off each bad guy in the entourage until they finally make it to the big boss, who in this case is Adonijah. So anyway, Joab is quaking in his boots now, which is so crazy because Joab's always been this almost like invincible man his whole life. And now he's trembling. He says, the king orders you to come out, but Joab answered, "No, I will die here." Oh. Wait a minute. I'm so confused. Did Adonijah already get... Did he already get knocked off? It doesn't look to me like Adonijah has been killed. He's just... Solomon has promised that he will kill Adonijah. So Joab must be just quaking, knowing that Adonijah is about to die. So we'll just keep reading and see if it sorts itself out. Joab had not joined Absalom's earlier rebellion, but he had joined not joined Absalom's rebellion, but Adonijah, we already said that. Benaiah went to the sacred tent. The Lord said to Joab, so Joab is hanging out in this sacred tent, and Benaiah is sending this message and saying, like, this random dog is like having a good time over here. So Benaiah returned to the king and told him that Joab's like, "No, I'll die in this tent." "Do as he said," the king replied. "Kill him there beside the altar and bury him. This will remove the guilt of Joab's senseless murders from me and from my father's family. The Lord will repay him for the murders of 2 men who were more righteous and better than he." This is a big moment. "For my father knew nothing about the deaths of Abner, son of Ner, commander of the army of Israel, and Amasa, son of Jether, commander of the army of Judah." He wasn't commander very long. Joab was demoted quick, and I'm sure that was a big part of it, why he why he did what he did. May there be blood on Joab and his descendants forever, and may the Lord grant peace forever to David, his descendants, his dynasty, and his throne. And that's kind of a second curse now stated from the mouth of Benaiah and Solomon that David originally uttered on Joab. So Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, returned to the sacred tent and killed Joab. So it's done now. And he was buried at his home in the wilderness. Then the king appointed Benaiah to command the army in the place of Joab, and he installed Zadok the priest to take the place of Abiathar. The king then sent Shimei and told him, "Build a house here in Jerusalem and live there. But don't step outside the city to go anywhere else. On that day, you so much as cross the Kidron Valley, you will surely die, and your blood will be on your own head." Shimei replied, "Your sentence is fair. I will do whatever the Lord commands." So Shimei lived in Jerusalem for a long time. But 3 years later, 2 of Shimei's slaves ran away to King Achish, son of Maacah, in Gath. When Shimei learned where they were, he saddled his donkey and went to Gath to search for them. When he found them, he brought them back to Jerusalem. Solomon heard that Shimei had left Jerusalem and gone to Gath and returned. So the king sent for Shimei and demanded, "Didn't I make you swear by the Lord and warn you not to go anywhere else, or you will surely die?" You replied, "The sentence is fair, and I will do it as you say. And why haven't you kept your oath to the Lord and obeyed my command?" The king also said to Shimei, "You certainly remember all the wicked things you did to my father David. May the Lord now bring that evil on your head. But may I, King Solomon, receive the Lord's blessings, and may one of David's descendants always sit on this throne in the presence of the Lord." Then at the king's command, Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, took Shimei outside and killed him. So the kingdom was now firmly established in Solomon's grip. It's funny because I just don't see where Adonijah was actually killed in this chapter. Verse 22, it says, "How can you possibly ask to give Abishag to Adonijah?" And then King Solomon utters this promise that he's going to kill Adonijah. That's verse 24. "The Lord has confirmed me and placed me on the throne of my father David. He has established my dynasty as he promised. So as surely as the Lord lives, Adonijah will die this very day." So there's the promise. So King Solomon ordered, I'm just going to keep reading and see if we can find where Adonijah dies or is murdered. Because that's just the promise that he's going to be murdered. It's not the actual murder or killing, royal order, royal sentencing, a royal death sentence, we could call it. So King Solomon ordered Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, to execute him, and Adonijah was put to death. Oh, I don't know why I missed that. Verse 25. It's just a simple, very clean killing. It's just not as dramatized as Joab. For some reason, I thought that it wasn't just Joab who gripped the horns of the altar. I thought that it was also Adonijah, but it was just Joab. Adonijah had just a quick royal execution, where Joab was, that story is a little more vindictive and a little more climactic because of Joab's history, you know? And that was only 2 chapters, but we're already at 44 minutes. And I don't think we're gonna have, I don't know, it's 28 verses. We could at least fit in, I think we could fit in chapter 3, but that'll be it. So this is Solomon asking for wisdom, like we said. Remember, David's like, "You are a wise young man." So that's ringing. You don't forget your dad's last words, right? And David calls his son a wise man. So that's got to be ringing in Solomon's ears, his head, as a memory he'll never forget. And here is Solomon now firmly established with no clear rivals anymore. Verse 1, chapter 3, Solomon made an alliance with Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and married one of his daughters. So he's already doing something that God said not to do. He brought her to live in the city of David until he could finish building his palace and the temple of the Lord and the wall around the city. So remember, David wanted to build a temple, but he was stopped by the Lord. And now Solomon is taking that up because, I'm sure he has the green light from Nathan and Zadok and even from God. At that time, the people of Israel sacrificed their offerings at local places of worship for a temple honoring the name of the Lord. Honoring the name of the Lord, what the name of the Lord had not yet built. Solomon loved the Lord and followed all the decrees of his father David, except that Solomon too offered sacrifices and burned incense at the local places of worship. And for the duration of Kings and Chronicles, we're going to get similar accounts of each preceding king. Kind of the pros and the cons of each king and what they did well and what they didn't do well. So we see what Solomon did well here. He followed all the kings of his father David. He loved the Lord and followed all the decrees of his father David, except, so there's the pros, that Solomon too, here's the cons, offered sacrifices and burnt incense at the local places of worship. It's like a report card for a king. The most important of these places of worship was at Gibeon, so the king went there and sacrificed 1,000 burnt offerings that night. The Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream, and God said, "What do you want? Ask anything and I will give it to you." Remember, so now the Lord is asking this amazing question to Solomon. You can have whatever you want. It's almost like a genie. I realize God's not a genie and Yahweh is wholly other, but it is sort of a wild thing to have the God of the Bible say you can have whatever you wish. Like, how many people are given such a question? I think maybe only Solomon. What do you want? Ask and I will give it to you. And this is what Solomon says. Remember what's ringing in his head about his father's death. Solomon replied, "You showed a great faithful love to your servant, my father, David, because he was honest and true and faithful to you. And you have continued to show this great and faithful love to him today by giving him a son to sit on his throne. Now, O Lord, you have made me king instead of my father David, but I am like a little child who doesn't know his way around." So we see a lot of humility from Solomon here that's not from didn't come from Adonijah or from Absalom, right? We're very presumptuous. "And here I am in the midst of your own chosen people, a nation so great and numerous they can't be counted," which sounds like the promise, right? We haven't read Genesis, but I'm telling you, it's in Genesis chapter 12, and I want to say 15 and 18 or 19. God says, I will make to Abraham, he makes the promise, I will make you into a great nation whose descendants will be like the stars in the sky, too numerous to be counted. And here is what Solomon says as he describes this nation he's just been put in charge of. He says, and here I am in the midst of your own chosen people, a nation so great, just like the promise, and so numerous they can't be counted. Give me an understanding heart so that I can govern your people well and know the difference between right and wrong. And once again, this is the New Living Translation, but any other translation I've heard, the word wisdom is always used. But understanding, an understanding heart, that's an interesting way to phrase that I can govern your people well and know the difference between right and wrong. For who by himself is able to govern this great people of yours? The Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for wisdom. You wonder if wisdom is going to kind of become the buzzword, where heart was definitely the buzzword in 1st and 2nd Samuel. But now we're seeing wisdom a little more. The word wisdom, because you have asked for wisdom in governing my people with justice, and have not asked for a long life or wealth or the death of your enemies, I will give you what you asked for. I will give you a wise, understanding heart, such as no one else has ever had or ever will have. I will also give you what you did not ask for, riches and fame. No other king in all of the world will be compared to you for the rest of your life. And if you follow me and obey your decrees and commands as your father did, I will give you a long life. Then Solomon woke up. It was just a dream, but a very real dream. It is funny how there are some dreams that we have that we remember much better than others. Then Solomon woke up and realized it had been a dream. He returned to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the Lord's covenant, where he sacrificed burnt offerings and peace offerings, and then he invited all his officials to a great banquet. Solomon judges wisely. Sometime later, 2 prostitutes came to the king to have an argument settled. Please, my lord, one of them began, this woman and I live in the same house. I gave birth to a baby while she was with me in the house. 3 days later, this woman also had a baby. We were alone. There were only 2 of us in the house, but her baby died during the night when she rolled over on it. Then she got up in the night and took my son from beside me while I was asleep. She lay her dead child in my arms and took mine to sleep beside her. And in the morning, when I tried to nurse my son, he was dead. But when I looked more closely in the morning light, I saw that it wasn't my son at all. Then the other woman interrupted. It certainly was your son, and the living child is mine. No, the first woman said, the living child is mine, and the dead one is yours. And so they argued back and forth before the king. Talk about a disorienting kind of Jerry Springer moment that all of a sudden Solomon is in. Then the king said, let's get these facts straight. Both of you claim the living child is yours, and each says that the dead one belongs to the other. All right, bring me a sword. So a sword was brought to the king. Then he said, cut the living child in 2 and give half to one woman and half to the other. So the sword is drawn right over the baby that's still alive. Then the woman who was the real mother of the living child, who loved him very much, cried out, oh, no, my lord, give her the child. Please do not kill him. But the other woman said, all right, he will be neither yours nor mine. Divide him between us. Then the king said, do not kill the child, but give him to the woman who wants him to live, for she is the mother. When all of Israel heard the king's decision, the people were in awe of the king, for they saw the wisdom God had given him for rendering justice. And that is where we're going to land for this reading. It's only 3 chapters in, but man, those were long chapters. Catch you guys on the next one. It will be 1 Kings chapter 4. Have a good night or day or whatever. Peace.